happy. Be healthy. Be your best.
So in this episode, we are going to dive into the world of dentistry. I want to give you a little bit of background information. In 1972 is when I started being in what I consider to be part of my dental career. And I know that I'm dating myself, but hey, that's when it was. So in 1972, I started working for a really nice dental practice, and I worked as the dental assistant, but I also had the unique opportunity to have a small back room where I would educate children on how to take care of their mouth. So I would teach them how to brush their teeth, and I would attempt to teach them how to use floss. It was not always very productive with the floss. They would try to tie each other up and do stuff with it, but they kind of got the idea. But then I came across this really cool book. And this really cool book showed to the kids that in their mouth was a bunch of bacteria. Now, I'm going to talk about it in this podcast as Bacteroides gingivalis and intermedius, but to them, it was just bacteria. And it was just this really, really cool book because back in the 70s, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was none of this. We had books. And so in this book, if you flipped the pages and the margin, it made it look like this character was moving. And it was really cool and pretty profound for teaching kids because it was a picture of a bacteria. And as the pages flipped and moved, it showed that bacteria taking the action of peeing out acid on their teeth and making holes. Now, I got to tell you, they would giggle and they would laugh, but they also would go home and they would start brushing like crazy. And also, their parents were thrilled with the fact that they constantly were trying to figure out how to floss. So that was one of my early introductions to how important the subject of bacteria in the mouth was. Here, let me put this down. So let's dig a little bit deeper into what that actually means. So this right here is a report at our clinic where when I scan somebody in person, or if they send in samples from around the country and I put it through my lab unit, this will come out listing some of the bacteria that are present as a frequency in the body. Now, the two that I've highlighted are Bacteroides gingivalis and Bacteroides intermedius. And you'll see that there's a 5 in parentheses after it. That 5, when I go through a report, lets me know that there are 5 places in the body being affected by that first one, and also 5 in the body being affected by the second one. Could be the same 5 parts by both bacterias. This is really, really important, and I'm going to explain to you why. Here's a really good definition. Bacteroides gingivalis is a bacteria associated with periodontitis and has been linked to several systemic diseases. Now, this is really important. Look at what some of this bacteria can do. It's associated with Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, and inflammatory bowel disease. And this isn't all the things it's associated with, but I picked these out of the Google list as something that would really impress you with how important it is to manage this bacteria that's in the mouth. Now, it's important to note that the bacteria in the mouth is not just on the teeth, okay? And it's also under the gum line. And so in that respect, you can brush really well and floss really well, but you don't necessarily get all of it that's all the way under the gum line. And there's another way to manage it, but we'll just go into that a little bit later. But another thing that I wanted you to realize is that when you brush your teeth, one place that has tons of bacteria on it is the tongue. And so many times that just gets ignored. So it's really, really important when you finish brushing your teeth to also brush the tongue. There's even online things called tongue scrapers where you can put them in and go across the tongue and get tons of that bacteria out of your system by using that. So how does this bacteria work with these different places? How does it actually affect these places? Well, some of you might have heard that there's people when they have artificial hips or different things that they've had, like replacement valves in the heart or whatever, they can't even go to the dentist and have any dental work done unless they take an antibiotic, because so much bacteria gets released from their mouth when they're having their teeth cleaned or dental work done that it can migrate to those areas and cause problems. Well, if you don't have those artificial parts or those problems, it doesn't mean that you don't still have an effect from the bacteria in your mouth being able to migrate through the bloodstream and your lymphatics to different areas and affect them, like we saw with these different things that were listed. So the bacteria has been linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, including plaquing in the arteries. It can play a role in metabolic syndrome, and that can lead to diabetes and heart disease. It's really important to pay attention to this bacteria in the mouth with brushing, flossing, and the tongue that we just spoke about. And then there's another technique we'll talk about later. So here is a picture when I'm testing somebody by samples or in person in the clinic. I have different views of the heart come up. And when the different views of the heart come up, I'm able to look and see if there's any red blocks that are 1s or 9s that indicate frequencies for inflammation or tiredness of the heart. And then I'm able to go and see if in that list that you saw at first, if it lists that bacteria. If it does, then I know that that bacteria is migrating from the mouth and affecting the heart. Now, that bacteria can also colonize and increase in the brain. So that encourages the type of plaque formation and interfering, causing a protein function that is a key part of Alzheimer's. Now, we've seen so much increase in recent years with Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's not saying that if you manage this bacteria that it's never going to occur. But what it's saying is that if you start to manage this bacteria, you're cutting down of the percentage of causes of it in the body. And if the condition already exists, then you're not contributing to it more. So managing this particular type of bacteria that shows up in the mouth is very important, not only for the heart, but also for the brain. If I have the brain and I see I'm 1 or a 9, and I have 3, 4 views of the brain that I can look at, then I always go to that bacteria list to see if some of the problem in the brain is being caused by that bacteria migrating from having too much in the mouth or not too much, but not being managed in the mouth. So this is really important. Another study shows that the bacteria can aggravate inflammatory bowel disease, and that affects the gut microbiome, and then that affects the immune cell balance. So think of that. The bacteria, and obviously there's a connection between the mouth and the gut with eating, and this can just cause all kinds of imbalances in the gut and just make it where all kinds of gut digestive issues, bloating, all kinds of things start to develop. And it can all have a partial cause or even a major cause from the mouth as the origin. So here again, I look and see if there's 1s or 9s with a close-up of the pancreas, liver duct, gallbladder duct, gut. And then I also look at a whole view of the digestive system. And when I see 1s and 9s in that area, I start to track down what the causes are. Now, the causes can be everything from needing hydrochloric acid, enzymes. It could be that there's a contribution from needing chiropractic. There's decreased communication from the brain to the gut, or that can be subluxation that causes a problem with blood flow. But there can be all kinds of causes, heavy metals, chemicals, emotions is a big one. But at the same time, I always look at the bacteria and to see if those 2 types of bacteria are actually causing aggravation and irritation in the gut and an imbalance that is affecting the microbiome. In the gut, you want to have about 85% good bacteria and only about 15% of the bad ones that kind of function as street sweepers. They actually can have a function in the gut, but you don't want that teeter-totter to get out of balance. So it's really important to look at the gut when I work with people and see if that is present. So studies have also shown a link between the kinds of gingivalis that are in the mouth and rheumatoid arthritis. And this bacteria potentially contributes to the development of autoantibodies that contribute to rheumatoid arthritis. when I'm scanning, I look for these bacteria to see if somebody that's starting to have pain in the joints or has been diagnosed with RA, if they have a contributing cause that is this bacteria that's in the mouth. The bacteria has also been shown to be associated with things like colon cancer and also some adverse pregnancy outcomes. So I think by now you see that that bacteria that's in your mouth, it's on the teeth, it's under the gum line, it's on the tongue, it's migrating to the body, can really have a profound impact on the body. So what's a person to do about it? Look at this slide here. Here's a study from the National Library of Medicine. Oil pulling can be considered as an enlargement of standard oral hygiene techniques. Standard, every day, since it has the characteristic of an oral massage. It enwraps epithelial cells carrying bacteria in oil vesicles, and it reaches almost all the places that you can reach in the oral cavity. Oil pulling, you may have heard of it before. Some of you may already be doing it. Oil pulling has been done in India for hundreds and hundreds of years and been shown to be highly effective. Now, why is this? I mean, it's saying here that it reaches all the places, but here, another slide, if you want to look at this one. Coconut oil is known for its antimicrobial properties, including antibacterial, antiparasitic, and antifungal effects. These properties are largely attributed to the medium chain fatty acids that are present in it, and particularly these two kinds of acids. These fatty acids can disrupt the cell membranes of bacteria, fungi, and parasites, leading to cell death. This is why coconut oil actually is beneficial to the whole body. But in particular, when coconut oil is used for oil pulling in the mouth, it can be a very effective way of working with the bacteria that is causing problems throughout the body. So here again, you have this list and you have the two types that can show up. So what should you do? Well, brushing is important. Getting it off the tongue, important. Flossing, very important. But also the oil pulling. Now, a lot of places online will say, okay, take a tablespoon of coconut oil, put it in the mouth, and swish it around for 15 minutes. Personally, myself and a lot of the people that I work with, they just find that it just gets where it's too much, it's too gloppy, they're gagging on it, they can't do it, and they stop doing it. So over the years, I've found that if they take a teaspoon and put it in the mouth and just swish it for 5 minutes, and then I always tell them, make sure you spit it in the trash. If you put it in the sink, it's going to go into the pipes and it's going to harden and you'll end up with plaquing of your sewer pipes in the house. Don't want to do that. So a teaspoon of it in the mouth, swish for 5 minutes, spit it out. Repeat that a couple more times. Do it a few times a week. That will have a major impact on how much of that bacteria is going into the body and affecting all of those different areas. Now, you'll also see online, some people use coconut oil, some use sesame oil. There's different oils, but the coconut oil is one that I have found personally to be the most valuable because of the fact that it's antibacterial, anti-parasitic, antifungal. It just has a really beneficial effect on the mouth, and people that use it regularly, make sure that it's organic, preferably cold pressed, organic coconut oil. A lot of them included in their diet because that anti-parasite, antibacterial, antifungal can also benefit the rest of the body. So try doing the oil pulling. Try a few times a week, just putting a teaspoon in your mouth. Even just start with 1 teaspoon for 5 minutes. You will benefit your body and you will find that you start to have positive health effects. So I hope that this has helped you tonight understand more about brushing, flossing, coconut oil pulling, and I hope that it's given you some motivation to really pay more attention to that bacteria that is in your mouth and that can affect your health so much. So be happy, be healthy, be your best, maybe by practicing oil pulling.
Be your